let's move on. We got third and goal. Seahawks. Where do they go from here? Because they do not look good. Newsflash: Russell Wilson was not the answer. They're 2-4. The Seahawks sit at 3-6 right now. And the only reason we're doing this topic is because of a particular person. You know who you are. The Seahawks right now are 3-6. They're 2-4 with Russell Wilson, and they're 1-2 with Geno Smith. So they're bad whether or not they have their quarterback or not. They average 20 points per game with Russell Wilson. They average 20 points per game with Geno Smith. And they have 228 pass yards per game with Russell Wilson and 151 pass yards per game with Geno Smith. So there's the difference between when you have an elite quarterback and when you have Geno Smith at quarterback. You know what I mean? Connor, one thing I should mention before I flip it to you. 29th ranked pass defense, 25th ranked rush defense. Connor, what do you think of the Seattle Seahawks?
So I think I kind of was thinking about the Seahawks decline after that Patriots Super Bowl. I think that put a huge dent in a lot of what they were planning on doing with that team. Obviously, the Legion boom was aging. They were losing players. I think that kind of started this decline of, okay, what's next, right? Like they go in, they destroy Denver in the Super Bowl. They come back, they lose on a horrible, arguably what most people argue is one of the worst play calls in Super Bowl history, not running with Marshawn Lynch from the one. And then we just kind of see this kind of like, obviously it wasn't a landslide decline because they were still a good team, but it was just kind of this slow rolling downhill for the Seahawks since that Super Bowl, right? That defense falls apart. They're now one of the worst defenses in the league and have been for a few years now. And Russell Wilson plays out of his mind, even hurt, every week for that team. Every week, that dude is giving everything he possibly can to try and win a game. And the big issue is not even talking about how bad their defense is. He has no help on offense. DK has these flashes of like, wow, this huge physical receiver that's a deep threat and is going to catch the ball, to he has 3 drops in a game and things that are hitting him in the chest that should be touchdowns, right? The offensive line is terrible. The run game is essentially, if the running back isn't making his own holes and running for 6 yards a carry, it's not helping them at all. Pete Carroll's coaching decisions have gone downhill significantly. I said this before. I wish Russell had cut out when he could in free agency. Russell tries to make it work in Seattle because he loves the city. I mean, that city owes him everything because he's given them everything he's had since he came out of college. So it's kind of at this point now where it's like, what does Russ do? Because there's nothing more that he can do to make that team better. He is doing everything he possibly can. It's not on him anymore. He's proved that he can do everything. It's how do they help Russ get somewhere, or does Russ need to say, hey, guys, this isn't working anymore, and just put his foot down and be like, and the Seahawks go into a complete and total rebuild by, 1, getting rid of Pete Carroll and getting someone new. 2, do they beg Russ to stay again, or do they try and get something for him in a trade? Obviously, we all know Russell Wilson is worth a lot if he was to be traded. But at this point, I think the biggest thing for the Seahawks is they need to go into a rebuild. And that starts with getting rid of Pete Carroll and seeing what they can get for Russ, because I don't think Russ, as much as he's given that city, I don't think he wants to be part of that rebuild, because that rebuild is going to take a long, long time. That is not a quick rebuild team, because they have only a couple pieces that you're like, okay, we keep him, we want to build around this. It's not a team where you have whole, you don't have a linebacking core that you're sold on. You don't have a defensive line you're sold on. So they are a complete and total rebuild team, and I think Russ deserves more than having to sit through that.
Is my mic on here? Yes, it is. Yeah, so you said a lot there. And one of the things that you said that I knew you were going to come out with is that they need to get rid of Pete Carroll, because if there's one person that does not like Pete Carroll in this world,
Can't stand Pete Carroll.
it is you. Here's the thing. Like I said, we found out Russ isn't the answer that they needed to be good. It turns out that they're just not good. They need more than one player. Their offense is limited. Their defense is not good. And they've overplayed for players. See Jamal Adams, maybe the biggest disappointment in the league. I'm looking it up right
he
now.
He got picked this week too. So what do you say about that?
I know. So who knows? But he also had a pick a couple weeks ago go right off his face mask. I was looking up what they gave up for Jamal Adams. Let's see. They gave up. The Seahawks are sending to the Jets first and third round picks in next year's draft, a first rounder in 2022. So this was last year. So 2021 first round pick, 2022 first round pick, and safety Bradley McDougald, who I'm pretty sure was decent for them. Like he was a starting caliber safety. In return, they're going to get a fourth round pick in 2022. So this year's draft, and Jamal Adams. And I've never seen a player go from, oh my God, Jamal Adams is the biggest one of
the biggest game breakers. He was a game breaker for the Jets.
He was a game breaker and a sympathetic figure because he was on the Jets. To Jamal Adams on the Seahawks is one of the biggest disappointments in the league at safety. And he might not even be top 3 in his position. And there was a point where he was the number 1 at his position.
He's not even close to top 5 at this point.
So I don't know. They've made bad personnel decisions. Jamal Adams trade. There was another trade in there that I can't remember off the top of my head where they gave up a bit for a player who was mediocre at best. They've been awful at drafting. Outside of DK Metcalf, do you know who the only other Pro Bowler they've drafted in the past 6 years is?
Couldn't tell you.
It's a punter. It's a punter.
There you
go. I took the liberty of looking at their last 6 first-round picks. I did 6 because then 2014, 2015, they have no first-round picks, so I decided to stop there at 2016. So it goes in 2021, they had no first-round picks because of the Jamal Adams thing. 2020, they had Jordan Brooks, who I actually forgot to look up how many games Jordan Brooks has, but I know from his Wikipedia page that he didn't get his first start until week 16. LJ Collier. Do you know who LJ Collier is? Me neither. Rashad Penny. Everybody knows the electric running back Rashad Penny. Has he ran for
his last game? No, I think his last game was 2 attempts for 8 yards or something.
Has he ever ran for more than 400 yards in a season? It'd be hard for us to figure it out. In 2017, they did not have a first-round pick. And in 2016, they drafted Jermaine Ifedi, who is now on the Bears. And we all know how good the Bears' offensive line is. And when he was on the Seahawks, we all know how good the Seahawks' offensive line was at that time. So,
and he was the weak point of that offensive line.
Yeah. It's not been a good couple of years for the Seahawks. They're a team that needs to hit the reset button, but doesn't want to admit it. And they've only been relevant because Russell Wilson kind of keeps them there. And look, like you said, Russell Wilson has a lot of value on the trade market, right? Because Russell Wilson is probably everybody's dream of a franchise quarterback. You're never going to have any problems with them. There's never going to be an Aaron Rodgers situation. There's never going to be a Deshaun Watson situation. That's for sure. Makes great plays. Does he have some flaws? Does he hold on to the ball a little long sometimes? Yeah, but at the same time,
that might be a product of the offense that he has.
he might also, he also is electric, and he might make a play out of it. You never know. So he has a lot of trade value. And I mean, I said the offense was limited. Their running backs, I mean, Chris Carson, I think he's good, but I don't know if
He's always hurt.
he's always hurt. Their offensive line is bad. Their their receivers, I mean, look, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are perfectly fine receivers, right? But like you said, sometimes DK Metcalf looks like, wow, this guy's a physical freak, like the next coming of Megatron. And other times he looks like, wow, this guy's such a waste of physical talent, Tyler Lockett is good for the first 6 weeks of the year and then sucks after that.
Just literally disappears. I've never seen a player do this. And he's done it his entire career. Where Tyler Lockett, the first half of a season, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is amazing. This is so cool. He's making every cut, he's running every route, he's catching deep balls, he's doing everything. And then he literally every season disappears. And not just he catches, he'll have a peak game somewhere late in the season. He'll average 4 catches for 30 yards for the whole rest of a season.
Yeah.
And he does it every single year. And
it's insane.
Can't wrap my, because you had Doug Baldwin forever. And they got Tyler Lockett. And you're like, oh, second coming of Doug Baldwin. This is perfect. You're going to plug and play these guys. And you have a great slot receiver who can also be a deep threat. And then you're like, wait, there's times where I forget Tyler Lockett plays for the Seahawks.
I'm going to be honest. When I was preparing for the show, I forgot Tyler Lockett played for the Seahawks.
Exactly. So you're like, oh my God, Tyler Lockett, this is great. He had 11 catches for 100-something yards and 2 touchdowns. And at the end of the season, you're like, he get traded?
Yeah.
You're like, what?
He had 700 yards 6 weeks in the season. How did he only finish with 950? It's that sort of thing. Yeah, and I mean the defense just speaks for itself. It's so bad. It's so bad. I've never seen a defense go from the most feared defense in the league. That's what they were 6 years ago. That's what they were. Even less, maybe even 5 years ago, towards the tail end of the Legion of Boom when they were starting to get injured. But they were still
Cam Chancellor leaves, but they
were still to be reckoned with at minimum. They are so unbelievably bad. It's unreal. And like I said, that just comes with bad personnel decisions. They haven't been able to recapture that magic. And I like Pete Carroll, but you might be right in saying that they have to move on from him. That might be the case. It might be time to move on. And it's almost a testament to people like John Harbaugh and Bill Belichick especially, and Andy Reid. And even Andy Reid left the Eagles a couple years ago. But these guys that have been good for so long, because sometimes your voice just gets tired in the locker room. And I'm starting to think that Pete Carroll's voice might be getting a little tired in that locker room,
Well, we also have to give Pete Carroll credit. You don't see it. He's a lot older than the other guys we're talking about.
He's in his 70s. Yeah.
So, and he was great. And collegiately, him coaching USC was, incredible.
Oh, he'll go down as one of the greatest of all time.
Right? So you see this, but there's a point where you kind of need to, be like, hey, there isn't that inspiration anymore. There isn't that control, because outside of play calling, you also need to control an entire team, and not just the team, most of the organization. So I think there's a point now where Pete Carroll just doesn't have that kind of control anymore. It's just not there, and maybe it's because he's been in that role for so long. I mean, but who knows? But I think that's kind of what's happened.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the Seahawks need to hit reset. I think Pete Carroll, USC job is open. Who says he doesn't go back to USC? That would be electric. That would be electric. Russell Wilson, he's quote unquote not asked for a trade before. So maybe that sort of thing comes to mind, and the Seahawks try to get as much as they can for Russell Wilson. And they need to hit the reset. But they're the worst team in the division, and it's not close. The 49ers at least
went out and destroyed the Rams. So
and they have a plan for the future, at least, in Trey Lance, who knows if he works out, but they have something. They have a plan, and they're a young team in general. Your cornerstones, Nick Bosa is young, so Deebo Samuel's young. The Rams are all in, so they're excuse me, probably top of that division. And then the Cardinals have young talent and look like they're going to be good for years to come. So the Seahawks are kind of stuck in this loop. But the Seahawks are kind of stuck in this area of, unless Russell Wilson carries us to victory, we are awful, and we are the worst team in our division by far.
That for a long time. It's not like this is a thing that happened this season. This has been happening for 3 years now.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. A punter is the next best guy. Is the second Pro Bowler they've drafted in 7 years. A punter. That's not good. Your punter. The only reason your punter makes a Pro Bowl is when they've punted a lot. Like that's the only reason your punter makes a Pro Bowl.
The Patriots were in that situation last year, I think.
Yeah.
That Jake Bailey was like the first Pro Bowler the Pats had drafted in like 10 outside of Devin McCourty in like a decade or something.
Yeah. Which, by the way, we forgot to mention with the Patriots. Shout out Jacoby Myers ending his touchdown drought.
He finally got one.
Very good. All right. Unless you had anything more to add, I think we'll move on. All right. Let's move on. We got 4th and goal. Best and the worst, like we do every week. Connor, do you want me to go first, or do you want you to go first?
You go first, Kyle.
Okay. My best for the week is the curse. Our podcast curse hits again, but in a positive light this time. I said the Patriots were frauds, and they went out and demolished the Browns. I said I think we had an argument last week on if the Chiefs would ever look good again, and that's when I said that they'll be out in the wild card round, and they went out and blew out the Raiders. I criticized the Cowboys last week for losing to the Broncos, and they went out and they demolished the Falcons. So the curse sometimes works in a good way, I will say. So this time, who did we bash? We bashed the Browns and Baker Mayfield. So that means he'll go out and throw 4 touchdown passes next time he plays, and the Browns will blow out the other team. We bashed the Seahawks for an entire segment, so they're about to go undefeated the rest of the way and make the playoffs. Let's see. We complimented the Patriots. They're not winning another game this year. And we doubted the Chiefs again, so they're going to go on a roll here. So that's just how it works. But the curse is back in a good way, though.
We do what we can here, Kyle.
Yeah. Go ahead, give your best.
My best, obviously, the Patriots look great against a really bad Browns team. I was just happy that I got to watch a partial part of a game before they booted it. My word, and I've talked to you about this. I haven't been on here in a bit. My worst is just the entire NFL. Is specifically the reffing over the past entire season. It's only progressively gotten worse throughout the season. I mean, pointing out the Cassius Marsh taunting call.
Oh my God.
Right? The NFL has been bad. And not just bad, historically bad. There hasn't been a single game I've been looking forward to watching. When I have watched games, I'm bored. Good teams are horrible. Bad teams are bad, and they're playing to the level of each other. Teams that should be winning are getting blown out. I mean, the Niners blow out the Rams. We thought the Rams were going to be awesome. There's very little part of me, and we both love. I love the game of football. Love it. I have no interest in watching the NFL right now, and that hurts me to say. I get to watch my brother's game. I get to watch my brother's game, D3 football, and it was good D3 football. And I was so excited to watch the games, and I love watching my brother, have since he started playing college. Pro games make me angry. I get angry when I see a slate, like the NFL schedule for the week. And I'm like, I don't want to watch any of these games at all. And I have good teams in my market. I get Cowboys games. I get Chiefs games. I get, all these, Cardinals are in my my TV market. I'm not excited to watch any of them because I don't know if the Cowboys are going to go out and win by 30 or get blown out by 30. There's just nothing in the NFL that is making me excited to want to watch it. Like, I was stoked. I was like, I'm going to get to watch, the Bills. The Bills go and lose to the Jags by 3, and it's a 6-9 game. There's no favorites that I'm rooting for. There's nothing, and I know I'm ranting about this, but there's nothing in the NFL right now that makes me want to watch the NFL at all, whatsoever. And that makes me sad and angry at the same time.
The entire NFL doesn't make sense right now. Like you said, good teams are playing bad. Bad teams are still playing bad, but beating the good teams. Like, it's just everyone sucks at this point. Everyone sucks.
Everybody is bad. There's no we were like, oh, the Rams, and then like Tampa's beating garbage teams. The Rams get blown out by the Niners. The Cowboys have it, and go out and abuse the Falcons, but the Falcons are absolutely trash. So if they didn't do that to the Falcons, we'd all be, what the hell's going on with the Cowboys?
Right.
So it's just the point now where the NFL makes me angry. And I can't watch a game because every 5 seconds a whistle is being blown for some bullshit penalty that doesn't make any sense at all, whether it's a team I'm rooting for or not. And this taunting shit has to go because it's ruining everything that's funny about the NFL, which is people taunting people. That's like kind of the whole point. Like, there's a Tosh Point skit that's like, I don't know, probably a decade old now, where he's like, let them do whatever they want. If some dude wants to do jumping jacks in the end zone, let him do it. Who cares? Right? Yeah. Like, they're getting paid tens of millions of dollars to play a game. Who cares if they like dance on somebody? Like, right. It doesn't matter. So that's the thing. The reffing is awful. Everyone's playing horribly. Maybe that's because of the reffing. Maybe it's not. When can we get a good NFL game? That's all I want. One game. Just one game where I don't look at it and I'm like, I turn it off before the first quarter ends because it's just nothing is going right for anybody.
I guess I'll parlay off of that. I'll tell you where you wouldn't have found a good game this past weekend. My worst, the Lions tying 16-16 against the Steelers. Oh my God, was this game terrible? This game made me want to throw up. Like, it was so unbelievably bad. That overtime period that they played was basically who wants to lose the game more? And turns out they wanted to lose the game equally, so they tied. Like, it was just so bad. Yeah. Like, the Lions were just inventing new ways to give the Steelers opportunities to win the game and like continue them being defeated. And the Steelers were continuing to invent new ways to show like, hey, we're not the Steelers from 5 years ago. We suck. Like, this game was so bad. It was so unbelievably bad. That's the only words I have to describe it. It was awful. Well, it was one of the worst football games I've ever watched. Period. Not even professional. Just one of the worst football games I've ever watched.
Well, and I saw a graphic of like the overtime drive summary. It was like field goal, fumble, punt, field goal, fumble, and I was like, you have to try to be that bad in an NFL over. Like, there must have been an active plan to just not try and win. I don't know if it was the Steelers just being like, you know what, guys, they probably won't win one this season, so like, let's give them one. And then the Lions, being the Lions, were just like, hey guys, we might as well go 0-17 and get a top draft pick again because why not? So
I think the overtime was like punt, fumble, or no, punt, fumble, interception, fumble, punt. Like, it was awful. It was so bad. Jared Goff. Turns out that it was Jared Goff that was bad on the Rams and not just the Rams. So who knew? Who knew that Jared Goff wasn't good?
No way.
Which is, you know what the worst part about this is for you is your prediction for week 1 was that Jared Goff would play terrible and the Lions would regret their decision. And that was the only week this season where Jared Goff has played well. So if you had made that prediction at any other point in the season, you would have gotten it right. Like,
I know. Well, and that's the thing they're still going to regret it. I mean, there's no way they look at Jared Goff at the end of the season and be like, "Wow, guys, you know what? Giving up Matt Stafford, what a great point." And of course, there's nothing else on that Lions team anyway, so it's not like blaming Jared Goff is kind of a cop out because that team's horrible anyway. But getting Jared Goff was not going to fix that team.
No,
right? Like
that team's bad, but Jared Goff is bad. Like, he's bad.
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift is the only good player on that offense. He's the only good.
DeAndre has games where you're like, oh god.
Yeah. So it's just it was a terrible game. Here's a question I'll pose to you, I guess, real quick before we get to the final part. What is worse, going 0-16-1 better than going 0-16? I feel like it's the same.
I think going 0-16-1 is actually worse than flat out losing all of the games, because that showed that there was a chance that you could have won a game and didn't. Like,
yeah,
I would look at a tie in a winless season and be like, you guys could have and should have won this game, and you couldn't. Like, as a fan or as like a member of that organization, it would make me irrationally more angry to get a tie in a winless season than just losing all the games. Because if you just lose all the games, everyone's like, oh, they lost them all, maybe we get one next year, whatever. Instead of being like, there was a game we should have won, and we didn't, and we tied it. So I would rather just lose everything than be like, hey guys, we could have won this one.
I think I'd rather go, like, yeah, I think you're right. I think I'd rather go 0-16 than 0-16-1. Because basically, if you're gonna lose. All right, that's the show, which means we move on to either the extra point or the 2-point conversion. So either Connor's going to pick a prediction or he's going to pick trivia. So Connor, I think he has one win in each, and one was on a technicality that's no longer true. The trivia one that he got. The trivia one he got is because Adrian Peterson wasn't in the league, and now he is in the league, so we might have to take that one away. And then I think he got one prediction right, in that the Rams would win. I think that was the prediction. So it's your choice. What do you want to go with? Do you want to trivia, or do you want to make a prediction?
I'm looking at the slate of games, and I might cry because they're awful again.
What, you're not interested in Browns Lions?
I'm not interested in Pats Falcons or Bills Colts. That actually, unfortunately, might be the best game of this coming weekend. Ravens Bears, Lions Browns, Texans Titans, Packers Vikings, Jets. Oh, you know what might be the best game? Jets Dolphins. Yeah, maybe I'll watch that. Saints Eagles, Panthers Washington, Niners Jags, Bengals Raiders, Chiefs Cowboys. All right, there we go.
That's the only good one.
That's the only good one. Cardinals Seahawks, Steelers Chargers, and then Bucks. Who put Bucks Giants on Monday night? Also, my other worst of the season is who picked the primetime football games this year. Who was allowed to pick them? Because they are also making the season bad. Who allowed the Bucks and Giants to play on Monday night? Who went and was like, you know what, guys? Let's put the defending Super Bowl champs against one of the worst teams in the NFL on Monday Night Football.
They're lucky the Lions beat the Ravens this past Thursday night, because that was also shaping up to be one of those games that was just absolutely terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
So, are you going to make a prediction or go with trivia?
I don't want to predict anything. I'm going to get this trivia wrong. And to be honest, we should take away the injury in Peterson one because he is back in the NFL. So let's just do a trivia. I'll get it wrong and we can move on for next week.
Okay. So, as you might know, the 2014 Kansas City Chiefs did not throw a touchdown pass to a single wide receiver that whole year. I don't know if you remember that one. They finished 9-7 the whole season on a single touchdown pass went to a wide receiver. Jamal Charles had 5 touchdown catches. Travis Kelce had 5, and I think it was, Anthony Fasano, who's the backup tight end, had 4, and then a couple people had 1, like the fullback had 1 and stuff like that. But one of their receivers went for over 750 yards on the season. Their number one receiver that year, a guy that I think you would probably know of, so it's not that far off. Who was their number one wide receiver that year? Travis Kelce had the most yards. I should clarify. Travis Kelce had the most yards on the team. 2014. Travis Kelce had the most yards on the team. He had 862. This guy was 100 yards behind. Kind of not a throwback player, but definitely a guy that you haven't heard about in a lot of years.
Oh God.
Was he ever selected to a Pro Bowl? Let me see.
Was it Sammy Watkins?
I'll give you another guess because Sammy Watkins would have been on the Bills at that time.
Oh, that's right.
He was selected to a Pro Bowl at one point in his career.
Oh, God.
2010, he was selected to a Pro Bowl. He had 1,100 yards and 15 receiving touchdowns. So.
2010.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I don't know if you can hear my sweet mates in the background.
Yeah, they're quite loud.
You can?
Nice.
There we go.
I don't know. That's well,
give it a guess.
2010. What team was he playing for in 2010?
The Chiefs. He was actually playing for the Chiefs.
Oh God. I don't know. I have no clue. The Chiefs weren't relevant in 2010. I have no
they
clue.
weren't. They were not relevant. He played most of his career with the Chiefs. His last year with the Browns. Do you give up?
Yeah.
I feel like you're gonna hate yourself for this one. Dwayne Bowe. Dwayne Bowe.
What?
Did you not remember Dwayne Bowe?
I did not.
He was. I remember.
I played for the Chiefs when they were awful.
Yeah, I remember his one electric season. I'm pretty sure he got arrested sometime after that, so that's might be why you haven't heard from him in years. Forgot he was ever in the league. Forgot he ever existed. But yeah, Dwayne Bowe, leading receiver on the 2014 Kansas City Chiefs, who did not throw a touchdown pass to a single receiver.
Bowe.
Yeah, I know. There we go. Dwayne Bowe getting the shout out he never thought he'd get today.
Dwayne Bowe is the wide receiver equivalent of like Priest Holmes for the Chiefs, right? Like,
no,
had an incredible year.
Priest
Like,
Holmes
had an incredible year. No, I know, but like when you think about like that era, right? We've talked about that kind of era of players. You had incredible guys who were just like forgotten in history because they were incredible guys, but you look back and you couldn't like name that. Like if someone was like, "Oh, who was that?" and you're like,
I will forever think that Priest Holmes should be in the Hall of Fame. Dwayne Bowe, not a Hall of Famer, but a decent player, I would say, at his peak, a decent player. All right. That's the show. That's all we got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, if you're watching part 2, go back and watch part 1. You'll hear us rant about Baker Mayfield and the Browns for about 20 minutes. And if you like the show, make sure to drop a like, comment anything you think we missed, what's something we should talk about next week, any opinions you have, and follow the Clutch Gene podcast to get updates on when we come out with shows every Thursday. They come out every Thursday. It's on a schedule, except when we skip 2 weeks like we did 2 weeks ago. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see all of you next week.